What a weekend for the privileged and clueless. Beto O'Rourke wants to fight bad nutrition in poor communities by putting in expensive, trendy restaurants that specialize in free-range chickens and other ethical foods. He also compared illegal immigration to slavery. Meanwhile, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez hosted a fun run this weekend where people thought they were donating to the Green New Deal, and in reality, they're contributing directly to her campaign. We'll go over all of that, plus some mascot troubles and a whole lot more. I'm Bobby Everly. This is the 13-Minute News Hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, folks, I hope you had a great weekend, and I thank you for coming back to the show. Please hit the subscribe button, and also, once you do, please hit the bell. That way you'll get notified on the show. Let's jump right into free-range Beto. He was speaking in Nevada this weekend, and he was asked about bad nutrition in poor communities, and his response was absolutely priceless, and it actually raised the eyebrows of some of the media who were covering him. This was one of the tweets. This came out from Annie Linsky, who writes for the Washington Post, and she tweeted this. Beto says he wants farm-to-table restaurants in every community when asked about poor nutrition in many places. Now, in case you aren't familiar with the farm-to-table restaurant concept, here's some of the report from the Washington Examiner. Farm-to-table restaurants are part of a socially conscious movement favored by wealthy urbanites that often feature small, elaborately designed fare from local farms and are typically very expensive. The Democratic presidential candidate made the gaffe at a Friday event hosted at a brewery by the Nevada State Democratic Party in Henderson, a Las Vegas suburb. All right, so here's more context to the event because other writers, not just Annie Linsky, were kind of, bewildered by what he had said and were wondering, did you really just say that? Here's more. Beto gets a question about nutrition. He has a very handy series of answers based on conversations with people in food deserts. Says Farm Bill should factor in nutrition more than it does, Washington Post writer Dave Weigel wrote. Now, food deserts are generally poor rural or urban areas where access to fresh produce is limited or non-existent. So Beto's solution is straight out of a let them eat cake scenario. All right, these are poor areas, and his idea is, well, let's just create expensive, trendy restaurants, and that will solve the problem of the poor. It's just, oh my gosh. And that wasn't even the topper this weekend. In a different speech, he compared illegal immigration to slavery. Check out this clip.
Millions living in the shadows, working some of the toughest jobs, lucky to make a minimum wage, some not even making that, kept in modern day bondage, their immigration status used as leverage to keep them down from fully participating in this country's success and in our economy.
So that is just absolutely outrageous because illegal immigrants came here willingly. They know they're breaking the law, and the way to come out of the shadows is to follow the law, is to go through the proper ports of entry, to apply the right way, and get in through legal means. Then there's no hiding in the shadows. No one's out to get you. You work to be naturalized. You work to be an American citizen. But this idea of comparing illegal immigrants to slaves is absolutely outrageous and is totally just catering to the audience for some knee-jerk reactions, some applause, and some one-liners. It's absolutely irresponsible for a candidate to be making comparisons like that. But that's just Beto. Also this weekend, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez hosted a fun run in her district that had a lot of people confused as to where the funds were actually going to. It was pitched a number of times as supporting her Green New Deal, and many had no idea that it was actually a direct campaign contribution. So here's the report. This is from the Washington Examiner. It says, participants in a fun run organized by Representative Ocasio-Cortez in her Queens district did not know the registration fees went to the freshman New York Democrats campaign rather than her environmental agenda. Runners who took part in the 5K through Astoria Park told the New York Post they believed each of their $30 ticket fees were going toward advancing the Green New Deal plan. Okay, so the reporters asked some of the runners their reaction and where they were going, and here are some of the replies. It's to help the environment, to support the Green New Deal, one woman said. It's a good cause. I think it's really for this particular new Green Deal, said one man. No question. I can't kind of swap that. The site says it's to benefit her environmental plan, said another person. If it is going to go directly to her campaign, they should have said so. So the Washington Examiner points out that there were multiple sites that were promoting this event, such as their Facebook page and a couple other websites. One of them described it as supporting Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal on Saturday following Earth Day. Another one pitched it as a family fun run. But if you actually go to AOC5K.com, here's what it looks like at the top. You can see right there, it says supporting U.S. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. All right. So it's not until you scroll to the very bottom that you see this. And it says registration fees are contributions to AOC for Congress and have the general contribution rules. And then it lists some of the rules. It says you're a U.S. citizen, says you're contributing from your own funds, says that you're not, you're over 18 years old. And here's the problem. Is that you had kids entering this. They had a 1K Kids Dash. So their names are entered. That's a $20 fee for any kid 3 years old and over. And it's against campaign finance law for a person to make a contribution on behalf of someone else. And all of these were campaign contributions. So if an adult is paying $20 in their child's name to run the 1K Kids Dash, they're making illegal campaign contribution. And it's just a big mess. And it just goes to show how sloppy and unprepared and uneducated this entire team is when they post an event like this and people don't even know where the money's going. Either that or it's intentional, but there was a lot of runners that had no idea, and a lot of kids, I guess, are donating $20, contributing $20, even though they're under 18, straight to AOC's campaign. It's just absolutely nuts. And from there, I want to go to more lack of education and the education system in general, because we have a problem that's going on. One, kids aren't getting educated. They're getting more and more stupid, and they're getting more and more snowflakey, just, upset about everything. And here's another case. This time it's Cal State Long Beach, and guess what? They have a problem with their mascot. Like, that's going around the whole country. All right, here's a report from Fox News. The supposedly offensive mascot was born when the campus opened in the 1940s, with founding President Pete Peterson's comment that he struck the gold of education by creating it, according to the Los Angeles Times. But students have come to see the mascot not as a tribute to their founder or to California history, but rather as a representation of the violence caused to Native Americans and others during California's gold rush era. All right, so this mascot is called Prospector Pete, a big miner guy. And what's funny is that this mascot was created, the university was created in the 1940s, all right, late 1940s. Their founder, Pete Peterson, it was named after him, okay? So it's not named after some, slave owner or some, Indian basher or anything like that. It was named after their first president. It's California. He coined this gold rush of education, and it's to honor him. But now all of a sudden, because the gold rush involved, taking over indigenous lands and all these things that people are so upset about, there's an outcry, supposedly, and they need to change the name. And here's a follow-up from the LA Times. The university committee has narrowed the options to 6: stingrays, sharks, pelicans, giraffes, kraken, or Go Beach, essentially a vote for no mascot. Anyone other than the students, who will have their own official voting period next month, can cast the ballot online for their favorite. The deadline for the community vote is Wednesday. All right, and so they're going to end up being the Krakens, and that just, to me, is a crack up. I mean, it's just bizarre. But here's the Heritage Foundation ran a report a few days ago that talked about some of the state of education, and it just goes to this whole thing where kids now are getting indoctrinated rather than educated. They're getting mad about Prospector Pete, but they're not learning the basics along the way. And here's some of the tidbits from the Heritage report. Today, 60% of college graduates cannot name a single step necessary to ratify a constitutional amendment. Half don't know how long the terms are for representatives or senators. 2 out of 5 don't know that Congress has the power to declare war. 10% of the college graduates surveyed thought that Judge Judy is currently serving on the Supreme Court. Indeed, pop culture references are better known than basics of American civics and history, even when those pop references are decades old. More Americans can name the Three Stooges than the 3 branches of government, and 3 times as many can identify the city with the zip code 90210 than the city where the Constitution was written. So, I mean, it just shows how crazy things are with this millennial generation. The left has been indoctrinating for decades, and the result is this generation that doesn't have a clue. And I want to leave you today, though, with one little bit of hope. All right. I found an article from a millennial. She's 26 years old, and she actually has a good head on her shoulders, and it is just so refreshing. All right. Last month, Time Magazine did a whole cover story on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And here is one of the things that Ocasio-Cortez said. All right. She said, an entire generation, which is now becoming one of the largest electorates in America, came of age and never saw American prosperity, she says. I have never seen that or experienced it really in my adult life. Okay, and here is the article, and it's just awesome. And it addresses this mentality of never seeing prosperity. Okay, and here's what she says. When I first read the statement, I thought to myself, that was quite literally the most entitled and factually illiterate thing I've ever heard in my 26 years on this earth. Now, I'm not attributing Miss Ocasio-Cortez's words to outright dishonesty. I do think she wholeheartedly believes the words she said to be true. Many young people agree with her, which is entirely misguided. My generation is being indoctrinated by a mainstream narrative to actually believe we have never seen prosperity. I know this firsthand. I went to college. Let's just say I didn't have the popular opinion, but I digress. And so she sums it up perfectly by noting that capitalism has raised more people out of poverty than any other economic system. And the problem with this generation is we've had generations that went through the Great Depression. We've had generations that went through world wars. We've had generations like mine that fought the Cold War and saw the collapse of communism and socialism around the world and what it's like for people to embrace freedom in countries like Romania and all the Eastern Bloc, former Warsaw Pact countries. We've seen it. We've seen it in real life. This generation knows none of that. All they've known is prosperity. And it's just so they think that the thing to do is, because we have it so good, is to bash what we have and not realize that it is our economic system that lifted everybody up. And I'm just so happy to see this report. This report was from the Foundation for Economic Education, and it was written by Alyssa Algren. And I want to just say kudos to her and thanks for writing it, because it was absolutely great. Folks, that's our show for today. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and please tell your friends. I'm Bobby Eberly. This is the 13-Minute News Hour.